All right, let's talk about one of the web's most powerful, but maybe under the radar features. It's called the Cache API. We're going to break down how this thing is giving modern websites their incredible speed and, believe it or not, their offline powers. But first, let's start with a moment we've all had. You know that feeling, right? You're on a train, you go into a tunnel, your Wi-Fi hiccups for just a second, and boom, the website you were using just dies. Why does that still happen?
You get this, the dreaded no internet connection dinosaur. Suddenly, the entire page is totally useless. It really feels like the whole experience is hanging by a thread, a fragile connection that can snap at any moment. But what if it didn't have to be like that?
Well, the solution is to basically give your browser its own refrigerator. Yeah, a web refrigerator. A place to keep all the important stuff locally, so you don't have to run out to the store every single time you need an ingredient. And that's really the core idea of the Cache API. And here's what makes it so different. We're not talking about other kinds of storage that just save little bits of text. No, the Cache API saves the whole meal. It literally stores complete network requests and the responses. We're talking about the entire package. The HTML file, all the CSS for styling, the JavaScript that makes it work, and every single image.
This analogy just nails it. Hitting a server for a file is like driving all the way to the grocery store. You got to travel across the network, you got to wait in line for the server to find what you want, and then you have to drive all the way back. The Cache API, that's your fridge at home. The ingredients are right there, ready to go, instantly. So how does the browser know when to make that trip to the grocery store versus just opening the fridge? Well, it uses this really clever bouncer, or gatekeeper, if you will. It's a special script called a service worker, and it runs in the background, managing this whole operation. What's so great about the Cache API is that it gives developers precise line-by-line control over caching. It works as a team with that service worker. And this is so important, it's asynchronous. That means it's doing its work in the background without freezing up the page you're looking at, so everything feels super smooth. And the best part? This isn't some experimental tech. It's in every modern browser you're already using. The logic itself is actually beautiful in its simplicity. Think of the service worker as a traffic cop. First, it intercepts every single request the page tries to make. Anything going out, it sees it. Second, it checks its local cache, the refrigerator, and asks a simple question. Hey, have I seen this before? Do I have this already? And third, it serves. If the answer is yes, bam, it serves the file instantly from the cache. If the answer is no, it lets the request go out to the network, the grocery store, and you know what? It'll probably grab a copy on the way back to store for next time. Okay, so that's the how it works part. But what about the why should I care part? What does this actually let us do in the real world? This is where things get really cool, because this technology gives websites some legitimate superpowers. I mean, this is the magic behind true offline mode. It's literally how you can open up Google Docs and keep typing on a plane with zero Wi-Fi. It's the core engine that powers progressive web apps, or PWAs, the tech that lets you install a website like Pinterest right to your phone's home screen. It's the reason some sites feel lightning fast on your second visit, because the main app shell is already on your device. It even lets you do cool things like show a custom "you're offline" image instead of just a broken picture icon. Now, if there are any web developers listening, you might be thinking, hang on a second, I've got local storage for saving stuff in the browser. Why do I need this other thing? And that is an excellent question, because the answer gets right to the heart of using the right tool for the right job. So let's put them head to head. Local storage, it's for storing simple little bits of text, what we call strings. The Cache API, on the other hand, stores entire complex network responses, the whole thing. Then there's size. Local storage is tiny, usually capped around 5 megabytes. The Cache API, its limit is based on your device's free space, so it can be massive. And maybe the biggest difference, local storage is synchronous. That means it can actually block the main work of the browser and make your app feel clunky. The Cache API is asynchronous, keeping everything buttery smooth. And just to really hammer that point home about storage, we're not talking about a small bump up. We are talking about a potential leap from megabytes to gigabytes. It's a completely different universe of storage capacity. So when you put all of that together, what's the big takeaway from all of this? It really boils down to two words that are everything on the modern web: performance and resilience. And that brings us to the one sentence you should remember. Think of it like this. Local storage is for preferences. You know, little things like, is dark mode on, or a user's name. But cache storage? That is for performance. That's for making your web application feel fast, feel native, feel unbreakable by removing the network as a weak link. Now look, it's not all a walk in the park. This isn't just a switch you flip. It requires a pretty good understanding of how service workers and JavaScript promises work. And developers have to deal with one of the hardest problems in all of computer science: cache invalidation. In other words, figuring out when to use the old fast data and when you absolutely have to go get the fresh stuff. And of course, you always have to remember that the browser can just decide to delete your cache if the user is running low on space.
But even with those challenges, the power this unlocks it's just a game changer. This is the technology that truly bridges the gap between a simple website and a full-blown native application. So the real question, the one I want to leave you with, is this. Is your app ready to feel that fast, that resilient, that native? Because the Cache API is right there waiting for you.